Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again, barefaced lies. Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Think you feel we would ever wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Hey Sean, you got a party, got that little party going on there. Keep to the left, you can't think right, so everything you do goes wrong, yeah. Incompetence just leads to disaster. Corruption brings it on even faster. What you say?
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Think you think we'd ever wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Think you think we'd ever wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Comrades, you always told us you'd build us all a new Jerusalem, yeah. You talk the talk, but when you walk, you only leave a crooked line there. And you don't see the trouble that's brewing if all you do is just what you're doing.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Think you think we ever wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced lies.
Is this where you wanna be? Debt and childhood poverty. Won't somebody set us free from this corrupt kleptocracy? Oh yeah.
Barefaced lies.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Think you think we'd ever wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Think you wouldn't wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah. Think you think we'd ever wanna defend, yeah. Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011, he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
A very, very good evening, Monday the 21st of April 2025, Easter Monday. Easter greetings to all of my Christian friends. I hope the Easter weekend has been meaningful for each and every one of you. My apologies for yesterday. I decided in the end that Easter Sunday wasn't really appropriate for a transmission. I did put the link up for this evening, but I think some of you mistakenly thought that was taking place yesterday evening. I've just finished a X Spaces with a guy called Scott who follows my work on social media, and he asked me if I'd share a space with Ben Habib, which I did, and it was the first time I shared a space with Ben Habib. He does talk a lot of sense. He also, I think, has sadly backed himself into a corner and is in a conflict with Nigel Farage, which I think is neither good for Farage nor Ben Habib nor good for the rest of us, in my honest opinion. I look at these things pragmatically, and I think individuals such as Ben Habib do talk a lot of sense and should be part of the discourse moving forward, because of course he speaks from a position of authenticity. He is part Pakistani himself, and very different from a Pakistani to the one that now occupies the mainstream spaces in the United Kingdom. So I think it's very easy for those of us who want to divide us to sideline individuals such as Ben Habib. So there is that. Some housekeeping before we start, and is there a few more people I think who've just joined us? Thank you. The Easter was lovely, and thank you so much. I've not watched it yet, so I will give it a watch. Evening, David. Yeah. Evening, Richard. And some housekeeping. Debbie, I might as well pick up on this, so please humour me for a few minutes whilst I get through some of this. I'm increasingly finding, I don't know what to say. I try and laugh at all of it, if I'm honest with you. I try and laugh at all of it. So we've gone from a space of where Raja Miah had nothing to do with this to now where it's not Raja Miah's work and it's someone else's work. So apparently I have other people write for me. I've never had anyone else write for me, and I definitely don't have a big team behind me. I think it's clear if you go and read my earlier stuff to now, there's a way in which I write, and passion, I think that I believe comes through in my writing and the content and the way I do stuff. So no, Debbie, it is all my own work and has been from the beginning. And the only way in which it works is people like you, one, support me so I can do the work with your £3 or £5 or whatever it is you feel you can afford, and that's only if you can afford. And then, of course, it only is worthwhile if you read, digest, use it to develop your own thinking, and then share the content so that others are introduced to it. So that is how it's always been. And I think people like Julie will confirm that with you. I write, and it's what I've done from the outset. So I feel this now. A whole host, a range of people are now coming forward. I'm not sure whether it's to undermine me or hijack me or take the credit. I don't. What do you want me to say? What do you want me to say about that? And it's a conversation I had with someone earlier, and the interim chair of Reform in Oldham, a man called Paul Eric, millionaire, is apparently, the story I'm being told is he's funded me, he's bankrolled me. Of course, it's complete and utter nonsense, and the equipment I have was most of it I've got now. Was bought on a credit card right at the beginning before anyone gave me anything. I went and took a gamble, and I think it took me something like 2 years to pay off. And when the police took my equipment away and I put a plea out, it was the likes of David Gidman who's here. His daughter, he lent me. I've still got it, I'm afraid, David. I do need to get it back to you. His daughter's old phone, including the Harry Potter case. My friend Karen Dickinson, who's now passed, died of cancer last year. She gave me some money to go and buy a laptop. It wasn't the generosity of a multi-millionaire that set me up or has kept me going. It's been the kindness and support of a whole host of ordinary people such as yourselves, and I'm in no way embarrassed by it. It's the way in which I operate, but I find it bemusing that, having done their hardest to erase my voice from what's been taking place, they've now decided that they were the ones who were responsible. Yes, indeed, Charles Garrity, the microphone I've got here that I listen to. I bought a microphone first. I couldn't afford a nice mic. This is a Shure SM7B or something. It's apparently the one to have, and I looked at it and I couldn't afford it, and I bought myself a pod mic or something, a Rode pod mic for £100, and it just wouldn't work the same, and it wasn't great. So Charles Garrity gave me the best part of, I think it was £400 and he's not nowhere near a wealthy man. And I went and bought this microphone. My friend Warren Bates gave me money. This is just I don't know what to say to you. If these people want to take credit for my work, well, fine. as long as the work takes us somewhere, you can have it. I'm not interested. So yeah, Paul, if all of this was funded by you, then my computer, which dates back to 2015, which I think is 4 years before I met you, is in need of an upgrade. So if a multimillionaire wants to buy me a new MacBook, and I'm more than appreciative of it. What do you say, Debbie? I wouldn't even waste your time. I wouldn't even waste your time with these people, is what I'd say to you, and I'd say the same to everyone else. I'm also hearing that I'm somehow blacklisted or something from Reform, and they want nothing to do with me. Again, it's complete and utter nonsense. My position with Reform locally, because I'm based in Tameside, is I support them. I've met with them. I've had the odd coffee with them, and if they want my help or if they want my advice or perspective on something, I give it them. Those of you who were here last week, some of you were not appreciative of me supporting Reform in Tameside, and did a resounding victory in a local election. I think you'll see I supported them, and those of you who contact me, I say go and join, or join the Conservatives, go and join a political party, be part of the solution. Ben Habib, who I've been on with, apparently he's set up a new political party, or he's took over a political party. Go and join that if you want. I'm the issues I deal with cut across political parties, and I'm not interested. It may be that I'll join Reform or something, one day. But right now it's clear what my job is. My job is to help get this over the line. So I'm not a member of any political party, and I've not got myself embroiled in local politics, because many of you who are listening to me now come from all over the country and indeed different parts of the world. So I'm not, what do you want me to say to this nonsense? I believe in democracy, and I genuinely believe that if you're in Oldham and you want a way through this, then go and join Reform, because there's no other party there, is there? The Conservatives are in chaos. Go and join Reform. And then take it to Paul Eric. You want to say and who you elect as your leaders. Because that's how a democratic party works. It's not for the Sheriff of Saddleworth, the self-appointed Sheriff of Saddleworth, to decide who is the chairman, who is the secretary. These are in political parties at a branch level. You have branch rules, and you have annual general meetings, and you elect your positions, and then people select the candidates that they put forward for election. That's how it works. So please go and join. And if I'm banned, it's the first I've heard of it. I didn't realise that I hadn't realised Reform or anyone else had bracketed me with the inverted commas VAT lot. Close inverted commas. I have no criminal record, despite their best efforts. It's poor form. It's genuinely poor form. I know Paul Robinson, is it Paul Robinson, who supports me on here every now and then. He posts on here. He's a senior position holder in Reform in Oldham. It's poor. It's genuinely poor what's going on. And poking me isn't a good idea. As always, these transmissions are only possible with your support. Please, if you have the ability to do so, use your finger to press that like button and get the likes up there, so the algorithm promotes this content and it's shared widely. And if you can, subscribe to Redwall and therabble.co.uk. Free, paid, I'm not particularly bothered. I prefer it if you could spare the 75 pence a week, or the equivalent of £3 or £30. But we need our numbers. Our numbers are slowly growing, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you who have subscribed over the last 6 weeks or so. I announced on the 1st of March, or around March, that how I'd lost 300 subscribers. Actually, in the end, it was 320. I'd lost. Well, thank you so much. Because those who left because they could access the content for free, well, fine, no problem. People have stepped forward, and we've made back all the numbers. We've made back all the numbers. And I'm grateful. In 6 weeks, we've made back 320 paid subscribers. I'm overwhelmed by it. Because in January, when I removed all the paywalls and I saw the numbers deteriorating, I was like, oh my God, what have I done? And it took us 3.5 months, and it's been okay, because during those 3.5 months, people have stepped forward and said, Raja, I know what you've done. You've risked this. You've lost your subscribers. I'll give you some money to help you buy it over. And a few people have come forward and done that. So in what, 3 months, 4 months, we are back on solid ground, and I'm all right. And I'm grateful to all of you. So it's worked, hasn't it? We've got a national and international audience. You can clearly see it's having an impact because people are wanting to claim credit for the work, which is absolutely fine. And thank you. I hadn't thought of that because I met with the Ashton branch in, we went for tea together, didn't we? At the Heart's Head. I think, I had a pizza, I saw someone have a pizza, and I took my daughter there a couple of weeks later. I said, we found a great pizza place nearby. I don't get it. I don't get it. But thank you, in spite of all of that nonsense going on. Thank you so much. The 300 we are Sparta. And it is great news. And thank you to you. You've been nothing but, and you're a stranger to me. I know you sent me a lovely email, and I read it and I smiled with a very generous offer. And we're in this together. And if you follow the work, I don't say me. I talk about a we. I talk about a collective, because we're not going to get to where we need to get to without the support of all of you and without the support of more of you. So I think hindsight, is usually a wonderful thing in a bad way, but in this way, it's probably the best decision we made, was just removing the paywall and saying, okay, let's put it all out there and let a wider demographic of people view me for the first time and decide. Thank you. And yes, I know I've got to still oil this chair. I went to Whitby. I put a lovely photograph up of the Abbey, and my daughter. The first time we went to the Abbey, we went on Thursday, and it was in the evening. And we got there in the evening, and we just get our bearings. We've got a routine now. We just get our bearings, and on Saturday we were going to walk up to the Abbey, and it was freezing. Friday we were going to walk up to the Abbey, but we walked up to the Abbey in the evening, and there's these 199 stairs, and the museum had closed by the time we got there. So I'm looking at this little one and thinking, she actually wants to climb over and walk around the old ruins. So we went back the following day, and normally it's, there's complaints of exercise, but I'm following this little one up, and we went to the Abbey on the Saturday. It was a glorious Saturday, and we came back. All the time I've tried to work. I think I've got into a routine where I can work around other things, because I don't have hundreds of people, Debbie. I write, so I manage to write all the time, and I think I've put a few decent articles out over the weekend, and I'd like to spend some of this evening going through some of the content. Now, thank you. Let's start with this. Maggie Oliver has released a statement on, I think it was Easter Saturday. Is it Saturday? The 20th? No, Easter Sunday. Okay. She's released a statement. Now, first of all, you've got to understand, if Maggie Oliver is releasing a statement clarifying her position on her very new campaign, then she's coming for criticism, stick, questioning, use whatever phrase you want. But I'll read you her statement, and I'll give you my 2p on that. After the launch of Very New last week, I've been contacted by many asking why we didn't just join forces with others calling for local inquiries, or Rupert Lowe, or a new national inquiry. So this post is an attempt to explain why this is. So she's saying, okay, why didn't you join with others who are calling for local inquiries? Sorry, I'm writing this down because I'm going to do this systematically. Rupert Lowe's, or call for a national inquiry in her own right. 20 years ago, I was sickened to see Operation Augusta closed down by those at the top of Greater Manchester Police. I'd worked on it for 18 months and we had identified 97 child abusers, 3 dozen children being abused, and yet no one was charged for their systematic rape. So that's 36 children. That's what, 3 dozen children. I don't know why she used that terminology. For 36 children. I saw what I considered gross misconduct, neglect in the way the Rochdale cases was handled, and after spending a year trying to get those at the top of the police, the government police conduct, IOPC, etc., to listen and do something, I realised that wasn't going to happen. I had no alternative than to either remain silent or resign and go public. I chose the second option, a decision that changed my life forever. In the past 13 years, so that's 13 years ago, I have devoted my life to exposing the truth of what I saw. I spent years educating the country in that truth, working for 4 years on the drama Free Girls, the documentary The Betrayed Girls, hundreds of interviews, podcasts, and countless pointless conversations with Home Secretaries, PMS, Prime Ministers, I think that's what that means, Home Secretaries, Prime Ministers, senior police, politicians, the Mayor of Greater Manchester, that's Andy Burnham, and anyone who I thought could change the horrendous way these children are being failed and abandoned whilst their abusers continued to walk free. So she engaged with all of these people as potential partners. I think that's clear to interpret from that. I've also spent many years as a key part of numerous independent reviews, local inquiries, and even the National Independent Inquiry into Child Sexual Abuse, ICSA. Of course, we know ICSA, they didn't interview her. The Augusta Review, the Rochdale Review, the CSJ Review, ICSA, then there's been the Rotherham Review, Telford, Oxford, the list goes on and on. Dozens of recommendations. The facts of this institutional neglect are well known by the whole world. Actually, they're not well known by the whole world. All ignored and never actioned, a waste of my time and energy. I actually don't think it's been a waste of her time and energy. I understand why she might think that. I don't think it has been a waste of her time and energy. I don't think this would be where it is if it hadn't been for the likes of Maggie Oliver. And I don't see eye to eye with her on a whole host of things, but I have to acknowledge that we would not be where we are if not for her sacrifice. So she goes on to say, why? Because they can ignore them, and they do. These local inquiries, even a public inquiry, has no power to force government to act. I'll come back to analysing that. They are a way for survivors to be heard, but once they have been heard and their stories shared, what change happens? My experience has sadly shown me the answer to that: nothing. Just as I have for 10 years, they put their trust in the process and think that if those at the top actually knew the extent of the horrors, surely they will do something. That is just not true. It is a lie. They haven't, and they won't act unless they are forced to. And the fear of personal accountability, I believe, is the way to force that change. What I have learnt is that the system is broken. We must use the law to hold individuals who have failed personally to account. If the lawyers do that, using the evidence that exists, I truly believe it will change the future forever. They knew is survivor-led, but evidence-driven. Never mind. It has been 5 years in the making. 5 years in the making, apparently, since I first spoke with the barristers involved in the initiative. I believe it's the only way, but I also welcome anyone else trying to achieve the same outcome in a different way. See, we all agree on that. I'd like to think the grown-ups in the room agree on that. What matters is we succeed. It doesn't matter how, to be honest. Private inquiries can establish what did not happen. 20 years facing these horrors mean I already know what happened. A private prosecution or civil claim, which we are aiming for, is entirely different than a local inquiry. It allows us to use the law to bring legal action against those who knowingly failed in the face of widespread child abuse. They knew and they must answer. Okay, who am I? I think what she's saying is that local inquiries are pointless because she's gone through a whole host of local inquiries. We've been saying from the outset, local inquiries, where there are no statutory powers, are pointless. There has never been a local inquiry with statutory powers. If there had been local inquiries with statutory powers, something we've been campaigning for in Oldham, which forced all of this to play out, then I believe we would get some answers. Answers that would then make it easier for these private prosecutions to take place. If that's the road you wanted to go down. I don't think she's answered why she won't support or hasn't worked with Rupert Lowe's inquiry in that. Although what she's clarified is if other people want to do other things, then it's fine. What matters is we all succeed. The problem we've got, and it needs to be ironed out, and when she was interviewed last week, and I played it back to myself several times, she does make reference to how survivors should go to her because her campaign is the best place. I think she crossed the line on that. I don't think, but because that then undermines other people's efforts. Either intentionally or unintentionally, only she knows. What I do know is Rupert Lowe's inquiry has a wider remit. We need to understand not just who failed them, but why they failed them. We also need to understand what the motives were of those who committed these barbaric crimes. And also, there's an entire layer around the cover-up. And private prosecutions will not get that information out. If it was me, and also at the same time, simply bypassing a national inquiry, well, that's, I don't know. She's not a politician. She doesn't do politics. So it would be inappropriate of me to criticize her political naivety. But the only reason we are where we are now isn't Maggie Oliver working with the survivors and sharing their stories. We are where we are now because it's political. It's been weaponized, and we have weaponized it as a political tool where we are taking out politicians, exposing politicians up and down the country. And the next general election, one of the key issues that will be fought on, is this. So no, I don't agree with that, I'm afraid. Because I do not have the luxury of choice. If you follow my work, you will know I will very clear I do not have the luxury of choice. We have to work with what is available. Rupert Lowe raised over £500,000 before the They Knew campaign was launched. The solution to this is within a political framework. Rupert Lowe isn't constrained by being an MP. Not at all. People need to sit down in a room and agree with each other, even if they're not going to work with each other. Because Maggie's campaign is being funded by the same people who funded Rupert's campaign. I know because friends of mine have contributed to both. Many of you have contributed to both. They need to sit in a room and work out how, at the very least, they will avoid duplicating work and agree lines of communication with each other. I know Rupert Lowe has reached out to Maggie Oliver at the beginning to try and get her involved, and she's chosen her own way, and she's had every right to choose her own way. That isn't my point here. There's three aspects to my point. One is the private prosecution route. It's great, go for it. But on its own, it will not get us where we need to go. So for instance, one of the areas we are pushing is specific survivor compensation schemes like they've got in Northern Ireland. That's legislative. That isn't on a case-by-case basis, because we know there are many survivors who simply will not come forward in the way and go through the courts through private prosecutions. We know that there's a culture that allowed this to take place, and it's both class prejudice, religious prejudice, and racial prejudice. We know that there's a wider discourse that's taken place. There's a wider discourse taking place around what we do with those who are convicted guilty. That needs to be consulted on, engaged on, researched more effectively. I'm very clear on my position. Automatic deportations of foreign nationals. I don't think that's why you were visited by the Prevent team, mate. On the basis that I worked with Prevent for many years, they won't just visit you for saying Tommy Robinson is not a racist. There's the entire thing around the perpetrator community, attitudes, belief systems, and what we as a society do to address that. All of these strands and more will come out through, or should come out through, Rupert Lowe's inquiry, where, all right, we're not going to get solutions, but we're going to get a body of work that should inform the policies of Reform, the Conservatives, whoever, up to the next general election, and add more weight to the need for a national inquiry. No, mate, I'm not going to get involved. Everyone who contacts me about various other things, I'm very clear with. Someone got angry with me earlier, and they've messaged me incessantly and abused me on the what's it called, the Spaces discussion I took place with. My focus is supporting a national inquiry. If I've committed to helping Rupert Lowe and his team, I will fulfill my obligation, my promise to the best of my abilities. And I'm not going to get deflected or diverted to, I'm sorry, tittle tattle. What would I do with the ones that are British born? Well, Nikki, you're asking a question where you are framing it in a way that for someone who's been with me for so long, yeah, it's poor. You're saying that British born, what does that even mean, British born? British nationals? If you're suggesting that British nationals are stripped of their citizenship because their father, grandfather, great-grandfather or someone might have come from somewhere else and then deported, I'm not going to agree with you, because that's what the Nazis did in the way they determined who was Jewish. Now, if there's dual nationals, then fine, off they go. So no, my end point here, so I was reading some of the comments, my end point here is announcing statement, issuing statements on X isn't what the wider public want, particularly those who have contributed to both Maggie Oliver and Rupert Lowe, and grown-ups on an issue such as this, who are well respected, should sit in a room and speak to each other. And if they can't agree to work together, which is completely understandable, then they can at least agree where they will focus and the other people will focus, and that way there's no overlap. And definitely not get involved in direct or indirect digs at each other, or allow their supporter base to do that. I don't think that's in any of our interests. Go on, Nikki, explain this to me. Let's have this out. A British, how can you even say British born? You like differentiating. A British national, a British citizen who is born here and has no other citizenship apart from British citizenship is involved in a rape gang. What would I do with them? I'd put them in prison. The conversation then we would have is that they should be mandatory life prison sentences. So the sentencing is a deterrent. Isn't that how sentencing is meant to operate? It's a deterrent. If you're in and out of prison for under 3 years for gang raping children, for the men who consider that sort of behaviour as acceptable, their prison sentence, should the remote chance of them being caught and convicted come to fruition, is a pitiful prison sentence. So that's my viewpoint. I was on that Spaces conversation, and I've listened to him a few times. I have no issue with the lad. Basil the Great, I think he goes by the name of, I don't know what his real name is. And there is a mood, a narrative of those who have latched onto this issue, and they have latched onto this issue. They say this is an Islamic problem, a Muslim problem, and they incorporate it into a wider belief system that they have, a viewpoint on the world, that Islam is incompatible with the West, we can't do anything, and we need to ban Islam. We need to ban Islam is what they, is the position they hold. And I listened to Ben Habib, whose father, as he describes, as a lax Muslim, he was born in Karachi himself. He says, why do you keep blaming the Muslims? The onus surely is on the people of this country, the institutions of this country, those people who are responsible for the rules, the laws, to exercise a more robust form of democracy that values the people who live here first and foremost. I don't even know what that means. What does that mean then? You want to castrate people? You want to bring the death penalty? I think this is why you end up, or we end up, in a position where it's easy to sideline us. I don't think it's a naive position, Callum. It's my position. Anywhere else on an issue like this that I've worked in the past, on anything else, there would be some form of gathering. There would be a meeting. Even if we went away disagreeing, at least we went away knowing what each and everyone's position was. Because sometimes what happens when you go away and you can't agree on how to work together, you know what the other person's going to be working on. So you focus your efforts where you're best placed to focus your efforts and deliver results. So that's what I hope will happen and will continue to push for. But so we're clear, Maggie, there's never been a local inquiry with any statutory powers. Rupert Law's inquiry is asking questions, or has stated it will be asking questions that no one has ever dared ask before, which is one of the reasons why I agreed I would support it. And lastly, a national inquiry is the only way in which we're going to get to a place where our society, the wider democratic values that we live under, are robustly examined and altered as and when needed, including, for instance, sentencing. And as I've said all along, we're only here because it is political. This is only made national and international news because we made it political. You made it political. And the solution is political. And I hope, because she's raised the money, by the way, hasn't she? She's more or less raised 125,000, so that shows the goodwill of people out there. So well done to all of you. And keep pushing. Keep asking Maggie, keep asking Rupert, keep asking whoever you want to say, you need to be working together. You need to be speaking to each other. Maggie Oliver's statement has only come because too many people kept asking her, why aren't you working together? And I don't think she's answered that. In fact, I know she hasn't answered that. In her statement, she hasn't answered why she's not working with Rupert Lowe. Oh, well, thank you so much. And if you are finding value in my conversations and my musings, really, it's like an Easter Monday musings. I've got more for you that I want to do, but thank you very much. The PayPal is very much appreciated. My preference is for people to sign up to Redwall and the Rabble or buy me a coffee if you can. And I keep updating people. So far, no one this evening has used the Redwall and the Rabble link here. So please, if you can, if you're here, you're one of the 582. I have no idea where that comes from or any of that. I think the way in which people campaign makes a massive difference. I understand the anger, but a baying mob trying to get at random people shopping on a Saturday afternoon in Rochdale didn't help this cause. And before anyone says anything, I witnessed it with my own eyes. I was doing a different piece of work in Rochdale at the moment, at the time. And there was a police and a cordon and a bunch of, I think it was the EDL or something. And they were there trying to just attack anyone and everyone who was shopping, and brown-faced families in the middle of Rochdale. That didn't help. Thank you. Okay. So I wrote something. I think I'll read it for you because it's been that sort of weekend. I did write it. And it's about this. I wrote it as a reflection, really, of where we're up to. Because I'm feeling positive. Because this is now out in the open. And that's why I'm feeling positive. We've got a once in a lifetime opportunity to do something about it. I don't think this opportunity will come again this way. Which is why I plead with Maggie Oliver, Rupert Lowe, Ben Habib, Nigel Farage, Richard Tice to find a way of sitting down together. Also the Conservatives who are active in this finally. There needs to be some form of conference. There needs to be some form of gathering. Anyway, I wrote this. This is a story of betrayal, not just by individuals, but by the entire machinery of the British state. Police officers, council officials, senior politicians, journalists, civil servants, each played their part in a system that chose self-preservation, or indeed self-advancement, over justice. Time and time again, they were faced with a choice: protect the vulnerable or protect their own positions. Every time they chose the latter. They weren't ignorant, they knew what was happening. They understood the consequences of their silence. Some turned away for personal gain, some through fear. Others took part in the abuse. And the rest? Well, they stayed quiet, hoping the truth would remain buried. When justice has come, the few times it has come, it has never been because the system acted. It's been dragged out kicking and screaming by ordinary people who refused to give up. This isn't just a scandal, it's a national wound, and it's still bleeding. For more than half a century, vulnerable girls, overwhelmingly white and working class, were systematically raped, trafficked, and brutalized by networks of predominantly Pakistani rape clans. No one knows the exact number of children abused. So vast was the scale of what took place. Former Prime Minister Liz Truss references over 100,000 victims. Some believe more. What is agreed, though, is that it happened on an industrial scale across at least 50 towns and cities. These facts alone make people uncomfortable. But it's not the most disturbing part of this story. What's worse is that authorities knew what was happening. They saw the evidence, they interviewed the survivors, they read the reports, and rather than confront the truth, they chose silence. They shut down investigations, they buried files, they intimidated whistleblowers, they turned their backs on children because doing the right thing might damage political alliances, fracture voting blocs, or trigger accusations of racism. This is the heart of the scandal, not just the abuse, but the scale of the cover-up. The story I share is not a recounting of survivor testimonies. You can and should go somewhere else if that's what you want. Mine is an examination of how a political, institutional, and cultural framework was constructed to allow mass child abuse to continue unchecked for years, whilst the British public was fed platitudes, spin, and strategic distractions. My work is not about theory. I'm not an academic. I'm not a politician. I'm someone who found myself faced with either doing something or looking the other way. I ask myself every day if I did the right thing. Mine is a chronology of how institutional betrayal took root, grew in silence, and spread across the country. A scandal where every safeguard was dismantled and every warning ignored. I talk about the isolation faced by the first people who dared to speak out. when the public still wasn't listening and the media refused to investigate. The gradual transformation of public figures like Maggie Oliver, who began within the system, believing in its integrity, but eventually confronted its failures and now walk a line between public recognition and the need for uncompromising accountability. The complicity of political leaders who not only ignored the crisis, but actively obstructed efforts to expose it. Powerful figures like Andy Burnham, Jim McMahon, and others in the Labour Party who used the language of community relations to mask cowardice and pursue political gain. The media's role, not as a watchdog, but as a gatekeeper. Now, as an attack dog, more concerned with narrative control than protecting the vulnerable. The failure of every review, report and regulatory body to hold a single senior figure to account. Some of you joined here. The impact of the release of the safeguarding Minister for Girls, Jess Phillips's callous correspondence to Oldham Council, refusing a public inquiry into the gang rape of the town's children, an exposure which, only through the direct intervention of Elon Musk, marked a tipping point that pierced the public consciousness and revealed the scale of betrayal. The subsequent launch of not one, but two independent campaigns, Rupert Lowe's Rape Gang Inquiry and Maggie Oliver's Venue campaign, one seeking to get to the truth following the government's deceitful refusal to launch a national inquiry, the other seeking to bypass inquiries altogether and pursue private prosecutions. And finally, the moral cost of multiculturalism as practiced in the United Kingdom, a doctrine that turned cultural sensitivity into institutional paralysis and left working class white girls to be treated as collateral damage. Please do not mistake my work as a journalist's expose. I am not a journalist. I am a campaigner, and mine is a call to action. Because the cover-up hasn't ended. The gang rapes are continuing, the survivors are still waiting, and the perpetrators are still protected. And those who orchestrated the silence, those who destroyed documents, suppressed reports, and traded justice for political convenience still hold positions of power. They've delayed justice long enough. Now, we're doing more than just name names. This campaign has been built not by institutions, but by ordinary people, by survivors, whistleblowers, journalists, and campaigners who refused to look the other way. It is powered by evidence, not ideology, by moral clarity, not political spin, and it will not stop until those who failed are held to account. Not just in print, but in court. So if you're here for comfort, look away now. This will make you angry, this journey we're on. It will challenge everything you thought you knew about the state, the media, and the stories we tell ourselves about justice. This will not end next week, next month, or even next year. I don't want to deceive you. I won't deceive you. If this ends at all, and we are to succeed, then a turning point will be the next general election in 4 years' time, and what the party we elect promises to do about this. And by that point, we should have evidence of the kind never seen before. and millions of people behind us. So let's see where we end up. But that's the truth of where we are and where we're going. Well, thank you so much. If you've signed up to contribute 25 a month, that's unbelievable. Thank you so much. I think that's the highest tier, isn't it? I think somewhere, including for drugs. I'm not going to disagree with you, Lee. It's a conclusion I got to as well. Thank you. I am feeling positive. We're now squabbling over the insignificant. Thank you, Mary. Just as the 19.99, the £2, it all makes a massive difference to me. I agree with that. And of course it is the case. I'll get to that in a second. I genuinely hope Reform and the others around them work out their differences. Having fought elections and won and lost elections, I know how powerful Labour are in some of these places and how blinded by ideology and bribed through, decades. Some people will vote them no matter what. So, we'll see. We'll see what May brings, won't we? There's a whole host of elections in a couple of weeks, including a by-election where I think Reform will smash them. I have, Carl, I know YouTube take a cut. It's up to people really, but I urge people to fund this way because I get most of it. Or buy me a coffee this way, but you've got to click a link. So sometimes I think people like to show their generosity on this platform, and it makes a difference to me as well because I can see it and I can, think like Callum is like amazing. You see, I keep looking at that, and it goes off a Nazir Iqbal statement. He then backtracked. And no one can get to the bottom of it. But a national inquiry would get to the bottom of it because it would go after the evidence trail, the paper trail, and we'd actually know who the email came from. We'd get a sight of it. Do you see the value of a national inquiry? That would be one of the things it would easily get hold of. So, I have no time for Pakistani sectarians. You all know this. In my own town, they're as far as I'm concerned, they're a disease. They're a cancer that's spreading. And I think they need purging. The pro-Gaza lot, the Islamists, I have no time for them. What's his name? Cameron Gaffer, Wahid. They were suspended, kicked out. One of them at least, from the Conservative Party that they'd infiltrated for anti-Semitism. They got elected off the back of postal votes and everything that brings with it. And they are directly connected to organised crime. And I'll quantify that before Cameron Gaffer wants to send his lawyers, send me another letter threatening to sue me. Cameron Gaffer, the leader of the Oldham Group, his brother was on Greater Manchester's most wanted list. I'm not joking. That's who these people are. His brother was on Greater Manchester Police's most wanted list. The police, likewise, those of you who follow politics in Oldham, are being selective of the crimes that they release because who it incriminates and who it doesn't, and what it might lead to. And it's the same across the country. These people are protected. And this type of politics is indeed a danger to the United Kingdom. Are we low in number? Well, we're doing all right. We're doing all right. And I agree with you. It's a hard truth to, it's a very difficult truth to stomach. 100,000 of our children gang raped at the altar of multiculturalism, sold for political convenience. It's a hard truth to stomach. So I have no time for these sectarians. So I was not at all surprised when one of the pro-Gaza MPs in Birmingham stood on a platform campaigning for an airport in Mirpur and claimed the grooming gang scandal was a false right-wing narrative. I'll bring up the article and I'll go through it. Just before I do, please, if you're finding value, it's been a very quiet evening on the subscription front. If you're finding value, please consider subscribing to Redwall and the Rabble. It's a web page where I share all the content. And contrary to some bloke earlier on X getting angry at me, I'm not going to stop asking for people to sign up to support my work. You can sign up for free. You can sign up and pay £3 a month, £30 a year, or whatever you want. It's entirely up to you. I'm asking you to sign up. Because we need numbers in this game. I've had one sign up so far. Thank you. I think now we've broken even. My target is a modest 10 a week. I want 10 subscribers a week, and we gradually increase our numbers. Edward, my name is Raja Miah. Before I came here, for 20 years, I helped keep our country safe safeguard our children and keep our communities safe from extremists. It's what I did for the government before I came to my hometown, and this scandal fell in front of me. And I've been at this for 6 years. It's not even that, is it, mate? It's 75 pence a week. I think it's a packet of crisps. Will you get a packet of crisps for 75 pence a week? A Kit Kat? Indeed. Gary, an MBE. Please like, please subscribe. Let me bring this up. I'll watch it. I've not seen it, mate. I'll watch it. So this was published in the Express. An independent MP has branded the grooming gang scandal a false right-wing narrative in a speech at a public meeting of British Pakistani politicians. Ayub Khan, who became MP for Birmingham Perry Barr in 2024 and is part of the pro-Gaza alliance in Parliament, Look at those nice little flags behind them all. Not a union flag in sight. Said the narrative around grooming gangs has been created to sow division. As per GB News, he added, when the right-wing media and those that seek to undermine, they're using their false narrative, and there's nothing new in that. We know what they have run in the past, whether that's in relation to the people that stand up for human rights in Palestine or Kashmir, whether it's to do with grooming gangs. It's a narrative that is done in order to sow division. We must prevent that from happening, and one of the ways to achieve that is to make sure that the moment a false narrative is arisen, that we address it immediately. So it's a false narrative not once, but twice. And look at them all Pakistani men sat together. Not a woman on the table. And we failed to do as parliamentarians. I spoke to Tahir Ali. So Tahir Ali sat there, MP. He's the Labour guy. And I said to him that one of the things that we must make sure is that false narrative doesn't catch air. Because when that catches air, it runs around all communities and it causes division. Labour MP Tahir Ali was also on the panel at the meeting. Then they go on about Khalid Mahmood, the ex-Labour MP. I ain't got time for Khalid Mahmood. If you followed my work, you'll know why. I think the reference to him was Catfish Khalid. So here they're trying to reinvent who he is. Let me find something for you. I think Connor did it well enough. And you should follow this guy if you want. He's Courage Media. New Culture Forum, used to be at Lotus Eaters. I don't agree with him, by the way, on his focus, but I respect his skill set, and I understand why he believes what he believes and how he's got there. So I'm not going to. But let me find it. Let me put my headphones on.
Narrative. And there's nothing new in that. So when the right-wing media and those that seek to undermine, they are using a false narrative. And there's nothing new in that, because we know what they have ran in the past, whether it's in relation to the people that stand up for human rights, for Palestine in Kashmir, whether it's to do with grooming gangs. It's a narrative that is done in order to sow division. And we must prevent that from happening. And one of the ways that we achieve that is to make sure that the moment a false narrative is arisen, that we address it immediately. And we fail to do that as parliamentarians. And I spoke to Tahir Ali, Member of Parliament, and I said to him that one of the things that we must make sure is that false narrative doesn't catch air. Because when that catches air, it runs around all communities and it causes division.
So he goes on to a whole list of reasons why Ayub Khan is wrong. Do you know what causes divisions? Gangs of Pakistani men abusing English girls for their race and religion, then shouting, "We are the supreme race, not these white bitches," and "Allahu Akbar" when sentenced in court. Not people condemning them. So this is Connor's evidence base. This is the same Home Office, so he uses the Home Office report, is what Ayub Khan does. He uses the Home Office report to defend his position. My argument is made in good faith. It is that we must resist selectively focusing on certain ethnic or religious groups, particularly Muslims or British Pakistanis, when the data simply does not support that they are uniquely capable. In 2020, the Home Office itself published a review into group-based child sexual exploitation, which concluded that there is no credible evidence that this type of offending is more prevalent amongst Asian or Muslim communities. If you followed my work, you'll know I've debunked the report as complete make-believe. And this is why they produced that report, that Pakistani men like him can now hide behind. Same with a whole host of white liberals. They hide behind that report even though it's inaccurate. And they say this consistently. In fact, most group-based offenders in the UK are white men. But the national conversations continue to be dominated by high-profile cases involving British Pakistani men. Maybe because of the high-profile cases being revolting and barbaric. Maybe that's why Mr. Khan, MP, and used as a vehicle by the far right, see, it's always the far right, to stoke division, distrust and Islamophobia. Well, then own it, and then maybe the far right wouldn't use it. So Connor then debunks all of this. This is the same Home Office which called the grooming gangs a grievance narrative. Remember, this is the Home Office that called the grooming gangs a grievance narrative, invented by right-wing extremists last year. Whistleblowers have said Home Office priorities are set by a 700-member Islamic network who promote the recruitment, retention and progression of Muslim staff in the Home Office. One civil servant told GB News that having an Islamic lobby group inside the Home Office represents a serious threat to the government's aims in combating Islamic extremism and granting asylum to those fleeing Islamic countries over religious persecution. After the Shawcross report was published, members of the Islamic network attended a course called Issues Encountering Terrorism at King's College London. One civil servant argued Prevent is inherently racist because it focuses on Islamist extremism, before pointing and laughing at a jihadist in an ISIS recruitment video saying, "He used to go to my school, I know him." It's the Home Office staff that Connor's referring to. Rather than conduct new data collection, the Home Office report concluded that a majority of abusers were white based on existing paper. However, that paper found that 30% abusers were white, whilst making up 85% of the UK population. Asians were 28% of abusers at only 8% of the population. The disproportionate offending rates by race were not broken down by ethnicity. The statistics would be even more stark if we compared white British to Pakistani offenders, as it isn't Japanese, Thai or Sikh men running the rape gangs. So whilst the vast majority of group-based child sex offenders may indeed be white, what Connor's saying is the statistics that even they've been forced to release demonstrate an overrepresentation, 4 times overrepresentation of what we suspect are Pakistanis. Ayub Khan MP told a room of fellow Pakistanis that the grooming gang scandal is a false narrative. Khan, yep. The truth is thousands of English girls have been raped by gangs of Pakistani Muslim men. And then he goes on to some other stuff. Okay. My own viewpoint is that a day will come when denying the Pakistani rape gangs will be a crime in the same way denying the Holocaust is a crime. That's my own viewpoint. I'm sure it does. You know what, Edwin? It doesn't matter if the Integrity Party is good or Ben Habib's party is good. What it will do is split the votes. And I'm not saying he's wrong setting it up. I just hope they work it out between them sooner rather than later. Indeed. Please do like, please do share. I've lost some posts. Someone was asking me why I don't have my wife here if I'm criticising these men. What an idiot. Maybe because one, I have not got a wife, but two, the fact that I'm not a politician. I'm not a representative of a demographic, you idiot. I'm a campaigner who sits behind a desk and campaigns and goes out and lobbies. And if you followed my work, you will have seen that when I was out knocking on doors and campaigning, my team was made up of people from all backgrounds, knocking on doors and campaigning with me. So, you know it's going to be a shit show, don't you, mate? They'll just take votes of each other and whatnot. And actually, no, I'm not going to join you in on the Heritage Party. I ain't got time for that. There was a post by someone in the Heritage Party. Is it the Heritage Party or the Homeland Party? I can't keep up. Making reference to me as a foreigner who shouldn't be involved in Rupert Lowe's inquiry. And I watched it. And there was a handful of people who agreed with him. There were 1,500 people who liked what he had to say. And then what brought a tear to my eye was post after post after post of people, many of whom had never spoken to me, defending me and telling him he was wrong. So I'm not sure they're all on the same page. The parties on the right, I think Reform, Ben Habib, and the heritage, what the party he's setting up or established or taken over. I think the difference between them is the difference between two people are falling out. I don't think you'll find much in the way of difference in actual policies or content. And then you've got people who are, who are pushing a narrative that I'd argue is racist. And that's a narrative of some people like me should not hold public office in any way because of our ethnicity or our religion. And I don't think the country is going to go with that narrative. Whether I like it or not is irrelevant, because this country is not a racist country. It won't go with that narrative. And if Reform is not of the right, they're centre liberal, then I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Well, we are. In terms of updates from Rupert Lowe, nothing as of yet. I know the fundraiser is still open, Louise, so I'm not expecting anything until after the fundraiser closes. I would imagine there'll be a meeting and there'll be more announcements. They are off for Easter, aren't they? there'll be more announcements in terms of more panel members. And again, I'm not involved in that. And mate, if the English people are really hurt by what's happened with this, why on earth did they not go out and vote? I'm an ex-Labour voter. Rupert Lowe, I think he's fighting on many fronts. I have time for the man. I have time for the man. I just sprayed Jeremy Corbyn starts a party. There's elections coming in May. We'll find out what happens then. But I think it's very, very clear, isn't it? The battle lines have been drawn. The Pakistani sectarians are very clear. Far-right conspiracy theory, divisive narrative. That's what they are with the rape gangs. The Labour Party are hoping it goes away. The Conservatives see it as an opportunity now. How genuine they are, only time will tell. And then you've got those who I believe genuinely do care, who are bickering amongst themselves and at worst and at best jockeying for position. But hey, compare that to 6 years ago, where it was barefaced lies. I think there are local elections across the country, aren't there? And there's also a by-election, and that'll give an indication, and so we're clear. Again, to those who want me blacklisted by Reform, Ben Habib hasn't got his party, out there yet. UKIP I've not seen anything of. I support Reform. I support the Conservatives. I support anyone, whoever is best placed, wherever they are, who will help us get to a public inquiry, a national inquiry, and fight to reform the democratic institutions we have so that it safeguards our democracy. So that's where I am. And once again, I urge all of you who want to, who contact me, go and join. Go and join Reform. You'll scare the life out of him, because he just wants to take control. Go and join. Sit in the meetings. Ask questions. It has been some journey indeed. There'll be another meal. I think I'm looking for the end of May will be the next meal, but there'll be another meal end of May, probably somewhere in Royton. So please, I will give you enough notice. Please do come. I host a meal every couple of months, I think is the plan now, every 3 months. And I'll be honest with you, I use the YouTube money. So the YouTube money that comes in, we use it to host a meal and for people to come together. Remember, a lot of my supporters are elderly, and it makes a difference for them to come out and feel part of a community. So I know we have people from wider afield, and my offer to those of you from wider afield is I will come to you and speak at events you might be holding. I'll just cover my fuel, and I'll get to you, and I'll speak. I'll meet and I'll speak. And no, I don't charge a fee. So that's where we're up to right now. My plan is to come back tomorrow and do something on, what was it? I'm going to come back tomorrow and do something on the differences between the various inquiries people. So you all have a better viewpoint of where things are overlapping with each other and where things are distinct. So I'll do that. Please, I'll give you plenty of notice. And I've never considered myself anything else, so I find I'm pleased you think that, but you know, I don't know who or what, but I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do a piece tomorrow on the differences between what Rupert Lowe wants to do, what Maggie Oliver wants to do, what the Conservatives want to do. There's a National Archive project that someone's pushing, and I'll do that as well. So I will host that tomorrow at some point, and I have promised you a Freedom of Information workshop, so that'll be Wednesday afternoon is what I'm scheduling for. So something tomorrow night and something also on Wednesday afternoon. So that's how this week will play out for me, and we'll see where that takes us. So that's me done, more or less, I think, for this evening. If you are finding value in this work, sorry, my computer's crashed on the screen I look at on the left, so that's crashed. If you are finding value, if you are watching, what's his name, Paul Eric, I do need a new computer. If you funded all of this, I could do with a new computer here, and possibly, I went and bought some candles, but I'm not really liking them. Perhaps, a set of candles sent across to me, please. Oh, what are we going to do? I'll see you all tomorrow. Please like, please subscribe, please share the content. Oh, one last thing. Facebook. There's 1,000 of you with invites on the Recusant 9 page. Just go onto the Recusant 9 page and click follow or subscribe or whatever it is at the top. Just press that. We're at 8,800. I only get that to 10,000. And most of you don't follow that page, even though you comment, because the only way I managed to send you invites is because you've engaged on it. So please go on that and help me get to 10,000. A very, very good evening.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.